Just ahead on American Black Journal, the progress and challenges of minority-owned businesses in Detroit, plus efforts to help Detroit residents with water shutoffs and a preview of the AfricanWorld Festival. Stay right there. American Black Journal starts now.
American Black Journal is funded by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first.
How does diversity bring energy to us all? At DTE Energy, we believe that it's the contributions of all that build great communities. As a company, we grow stronger by welcoming the unique perspectives of everyone. As community members, we support our state's broad culture and heritage. From working closely with women and minority-owned suppliers to embracing our local cultures, DTE Energy is powering diversity. The DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of Detroit Public Television. Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta Faucets, Craft-Made in Maryland cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
For Fun gave me a scholarship to help me attend Eastern Michigan University. I developed a passion for engineering at an early age. It started off with something as simple as fixing bikes. I didn't know anything about a bike shop or where I could go to get it fixed, so I just kind of had to play around with it myself. You can't really do everything on your own, so with even the smallest amount of help, just a little push, it can get you to where you need to be.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. As Detroit's revitalization continues, businesses are steadily opening up. But how are minority-owned businesses faring in the city's resurgence? According to the 2012 U.S. Census, 82% of all small businesses in the city are minority-owned. On today's program, we're taking a look at several issues that affect minority entrepreneurs, such as renting versus owning, economic growth, business survival, and of course, funding. Joining me to talk about these topics are Mark Lee. He is the president of the Lee Group, Michelle Lewis, who is owner of Painting with a Twist, and Dana White, who is owner of Perrolli Boyd Salon. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So, Mark, I'll start with you. Give us an overall grade right now in Detroit, how we're doing, not just helping minority-owned businesses open up, but survive and sort of capitalize on the things that are happening.
And the overall grade, quite frankly, is probably in the C area. Yeah, I mean, we're opening up businesses weekly in the city of Detroit, but quite frankly, here's the challenge. You and I talked in the past. Once we have a challenge of business sustainability. Yeah. 50% of the businesses are not going to survive beyond. Right. Yeah, they're going to fail within 12 months. 80% are going to fail within within a year, 18 months. The other thing, though, is when it comes to revenue. The city of Detroit has 82% of all the small businesses are minority-owned, but only 15% of the dollars are privately resourced.
I see. So we're counting on what? Philanthropy, government to fill those holes.
Absolutely right. So we're asking those organizations to step in. But what that also tells you is that we have a lot of one or two people types of businesses, and we're not sharing in the revenue across the entire city.
Right, right. Michelle and Dana, you operate two successful businesses, not just in Detroit, but in the downtown and midtown areas, which I think is really important because a lot of times when we're talking about minority businesses and the resurgence, we're talking about people being left out of those areas. So, Michelle, I'll start with you. Talk about Painting with a Twist and how you got that started and where it is. I think that's important too.
Okay, sure. I'll start with where we are. Yeah. Our third location downtown is located at 1420 Washington Boulevard. And we are in the Julian C. Madison building, which is owned by Sharon Madison, yes. And what we are
one of the few buildings in downtown that's still owned by an
African American. Correct. So what we are is an art studio where you can come and you can have a great time. Most of the customers that we have are adults, but we do things for our younger customers as well. And it's where The artist will take you step by step through the painting that's being featured for that evening, and by the end of the evening, you leave with your own masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's a totally fun environment, music going, you could bring your favorite bottle of wine. It's wonderful.
Yeah. What were some of the challenges that you encountered to try to get that business started? We were talking before the show, it's a franchise, which
Yes.
I know is also another kind of hurdle that often minority owners face. Talk about the things that you had to get through to get to
Yes.
that space.
Actually, for me, it being a franchise and me starting with our first location, which was in Ferndale, somewhat at the beginning of when the franchise first decided to franchise, there weren't a lot of hurdles to go through because I was kind of one of
You already had...
I already had one, so I knew what the process was, and I started with them when they started the processes of the franchising. But then coming into the city of Detroit, that was a bit interesting, seeing that I had already had 2 under my belt. Detroit is a city that somewhat, even though they're trying to make steps to become a millennial city, there's still some antiquated steps in going through getting your business certificates, business licensing. Sometimes the left hand may not know what the right hand is doing, but they're working really hard to make sure that it happens. So that was a bit of a challenge. It was a bit of a challenge finding a location downtown. Even though there's a lot of vacancies downtown, there are and there are not.
Right.
You know, and finding the right spot.
And find the right landlord, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and one that's going to work with you, and see one that sees your concept, because our concept is a little bit different. Actually, having the BYOB associated with painting with a twist, which that was a hurdle to go through with the city, but
right, you figured that out. Dana, talk about your business and where you guys are.
Yeah, so similarly to Michelle, Perrolli Boyd opened in Southfield in 2012. Perrolli Boyd is revolutionizing the way women with thick and curly hair look at getting their hair done. So gone are the days with Perrolli Boyd where you make your appointment 2 weeks out, you get there at 6 o'clock in the morning and don't leave until 3.
You're there all day.
And and you pay $40, $50, no, like $60, $70, $80. At Perrolli Boyd, we're walk-in only. We're 7 days a week. We're $40. And our vision is to not only expand nationally, but to give women affordable, quality and timely hair. So, you know, because this is a revolutionary concept and there aren't other salons that are branded that are doing this, I didn't want to jump into the Detroit market immediately. I wanted to test my legs and see what we can do. So that was 4 years ago. And about 2 years ago, I decided to make the move to Detroit, Midtown specifically. When I choose my locations, I choose where are we on the convergence of, what intersects and where's the center of that intersection. So for me, the center would be Midtown because you have Harper Hospital across the street, Wayne State, and all of these other companies where we can be open at 7 a.m.
And get their hair,
exactly, and they can walk in and get their hair done before they leave. Again, similarly to what Michelle said, it's been important to me to have a landlord that is willing to work with a small business. My business.
Your landlord is
George Stewart, yes.
Who owns the garden building.
The whole garden building. And so having him understand the vision that this is not, you know, another salon, and saying, you know what, let's give her a shot in this prime location, and letting her sign a lease that's long enough so her business can continue to grow is very important to me.
So Mark, here we have 2 really great examples of how it can work.
That's right.
What is preventing us from getting more people to this?
And that's the challenge. Excuse me, two very successful businesses. But here's the bottom line. Downtown is hot right now. Midtown is hot right now. A lot of businesses, though, cannot afford the increases in rent. Right? And so therefore people are getting...
I live downtown. I might not be able to afford the increases.
So you know it personally. But from a business standpoint, you have a lot of long-established businesses who have been downtown. They're being pushed out. The rents are going up, and certainly they're being pushed out. So what I like to tell people, the way you get around it is, one, you have a great relationship with your landlord. Continue to work with your landlord as much as possible. If you have a great rate, try to secure a longer-term rate or monthly rent, if you will. And if you have the resources, I like to tell businesses, if you have the resources, try to buy the property. That is the challenge right there.
I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, we've seen a couple instances recently of long-time businesses being told, we're going to raise the rent or we want to do something else. And I think one of the questions that comes up is, well, you've been there for 40, 50 years. Why didn't you have the chance to buy that place?
I put that to one of the long-standing businesses. I'm not going to say who it was. We all know who it is. This individual shared with me, says, I thought about it and got the building appraised. It was appraised at 50% more value. So therefore, at that point in time, he could not afford to buy the building. So I said, why didn't you buy it years ago? He says, I never thought about it.
No one thought about it. Yeah, well, we got to get people to a place where
Absolutely.
they're thinking more. All right. We could talk about this for days, but we are out of time. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for having us.
All right, a recent study shows increased health issues have surfaced among residents who have had their water turned off because of unpaid bills. Last year, more than 27,000 Detroit homes had their water shut off. In a One Detroit special report, we meet a community advocate who is trying to get residents' water turned back on.
D'Amico Williams calls himself a community advocate. He runs a group called Hydrate Detroit, which helps people when their water has been shut off.
You have 45,000 people that are on payment plans, 9,000 people shut off, and there is no room for amnesty. There's no room for even modification of some of these outrageous, outstanding bills.
Earlier this week, he was on the road across Detroit meeting his clients, people trying to get their water turned back on.
Everything is done by a system of giving. We reach out to social media. We reach out to our friends, our family, our neighbors to see what they can do to help. When you work off $200 a month, what can you do?
Deshawn Adams lives on the east side. She lost her water a week ago.
My new bill just came in. It's over $900 at this point.
We'll go to the 106 line and see what happens.
Yeah, that's what they told me this.
Right, because I had already called about you and they were supposed to mark it in the computer. When I called the lady today, I wasn't able to get in touch with her.
The bill just built up, built up, built up. Searching for employment, but I'm limited to what I can do because of my physical limitations. I have multiple health problems. For me, the main one is having to sleep with a CPAP machine that does not operate without water.
This water shutoff can make or break a person. When the tap runs dry, you're wondering, how can you get water? You know, you're panicking. You're in a state of shock. You don't know what the hell to do. And basically, Miss Adams stayed as calm as anybody I've seen in this condition.
Charlotte Woods bought her home on the far west side, on the other side of Telegraph Road a few years ago. She works full-time at an auto parts manufacturer. She's also a single mother with 4 kids. Her water was shut off 2 months ago. She says she can probably handle reasonable water bill payments, but not a bill adding up to thousands.
Wow.
Yes, wow.
What in the world?
Yeah.
What happened here?
There is a spout that's on the other side of this house.
Okay.
And I was unaware that was there. I didn't know it was there. And I've been here about maybe ever since I bought the house in March of 14, and I didn't know that there was a spigot on the other side. The only way I found out was that the next door neighbor was like, "Did you know that there was water running?" This water right here will probably last me for about 4 days. This part of it will last me no more than about like a day and a half. But this, because they're very good about drinking water. They just drink 1 or 2 a day. I'm just worried, first of all, about the kids. That's my biggest concern is the kids. Brushing their teeth. It's a good water to brush their teeth with, wash their face, to take towel baths with. Because of my water situation, I keep plenty of Clorox on hand for the bathroom, for the kitchen, to clean other things. So until we get the water back on.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk with my team about this and see what we can do. Because $9,000 is.
It is.
We could get this knocked down. Mm-hmm. We can get this knocked down.
D'Amico Williams in Hydrate Detroit can only help a few clients at a time. But Williams wants more people to know there are some outside agencies like his that are here to help.
It could happen to anybody, but we're not talking. And when you don't talk, people don't know. And if people don't know, how can people help you?
The Detroit Water and Sewage Department says less than 1,000 households are currently at risk of water shutoffs for non-payment, and most of those homes will get the water turned back on in 24 hours through a payment plan or financial assistance. Coming up next, a huge tradition in Detroit celebrates its 35th year. We'll get the details. But first, here's an excerpt from the Detroit Historical Society's Detroit 67 Oral History Project.
So I was really young. I was like, about 11 when this all happened. And of course it is seared on my brain, the sight of flames that were taller than the trees on 12th Street. I later bought a home actually on the corner of 12th Street and Longfellow, just a few blocks away. And there were trees in my yard that these flames had once surpassed. The drugstore on the corner with people who lived upstairs from there, and the threat, the rumor up and down the neighborhood of snipers and whatnot. My mother, who was, I think at that time, working for the Michigan Civil Rights Commission, was involved in dealing with meetings and whatnot that were going on around town. Of course, I didn't really understand all of that. But at a certain point, as the week went on, it got increasingly precarious and what we felt was dangerous.
The 35th Annual African World Festival will take over the grounds of the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History on the weekend of August 18th. The family-friendly event attracts 150,000 people for 3 days of food, music, arts and crafts, poetry, African drumming, and dance. Here to tell us more is Charles Farrell. He is the VP of Public Programs at the Wright Museum, along with Njia Kai. She is the director of the festival. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
35 years. That is a remarkable achievement. Talk about how this got started and what we will see in year 35.
Well, there were initiatives here in the city to create festivals representing the various ethnic groups throughout the city, and there was a group that came together to pull together the African American Festival. And
now, when I was a kid, this was at Hart Plaza, correct? When did it move over to the museum?
Yeah, we moved. This will be our 6th festival on the grounds of the Wright Museum, and the move was made for a lot of different considerations, but I'm really happy that it happened because it causes people now to really visit the museum while they're visiting the festival. And to come to know who is actually producing this event. Downtown, we took a survey one time, and they even thought I was the producer. So it was good to align the festival directly with the museum.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about over the years how the festival's changed, how it's grown quite a bit from what I can remember.
Well, you know, we work real hard now to really create a cultural arts extravaganza, to really tie the festival and its content into the mission and operations and focus of the museum.
Of the Wright, yeah.
For instance, this year, the museum, along with many of the institutions in the Cultural Center, are focused on Detroit 1967 and those reflections. And so the theme of the festival this year is Soul Revolution. Reflecting on that theme and also on the consistent work of the festival to really put a positive face on people of African descent in our community, to show our history and to show our current achievements.
Yeah. When we say African world, obviously we're talking about African Americans, but we're also talking about Africa, and we're talking about that connection, that deep historical and cultural connection that exists between people here and there. I feel like I feel like this is a sort of interesting moment to be talking about those connections for any number of reasons. But talk about the sort of currency of that in the culture right now.
Well, you know, there are many of us, and certainly the mentors and role models I grew up under, who have taken on the notion that we are part of the African world, not associated with it, and not, you know, mildly sitting aside it, but we see ourselves as part of that world and have worked really hard over the last 100 years or more to make direct connection with the peoples and the cultures of the African continent. And so this is an opportunity, and I'm really proud of the museum, because they could have created the African American Festival, and they did not. They chose to take a worldview and to really use the facilities of the museum, its resources and its interests to develop an event that has such a broad view, and then makes the content so rich, and the possibilities of the content even richer.
Charles, you manage the Children's Village part of the festival. Talk about what that is.
Correct. It's Watoto Village, which is the Children's Village, and it's really funded by the Knight Foundation. We do an annual book fair. This is actually our 5th year of focusing on literacy and providing free books, perhaps 500 to 700 books we give out, free raffles and school supplies to support the youth in the community. But we also have a broad program of artists from age 5 up to the mid-20s who will be performing various aspects of the culture, in addition to having authors of children's books. So it's really focused on literacy and showcasing the excellent youth and their creativity. It's a very important program. I want to say that Dr. Charles Wright, when he started the museum in 1965, the name was the International Afro-American Museum, IM. So the fact that we are connected to Africa, and that's very important, perhaps is our most important program in terms of centering the community around the importance of their history and their culture, and making that connection to the great civilizations of Africa, which really defeats and undermines the whole concept of white supremacy. So it's a very important, broad program that's extremely rich throughout all the streets shut down, and perhaps 120 vendors. So that's really what we're asking the whole community to come out and to celebrate our history very broadly.
One of the things that I think is interesting about this year and the festival is the opening of the African American History Museum in Washington, which is itself a milestone. Talk about this moment where we do seem to be looking a little more, I guess, introspectively at sort of who we are and where we come from.
Oh, sure. In fact, we have, I just want to point something that's distinguished this year is our exhibition, which is in a commemoration of the 1967 rebellion called Say It Loud, Art, History, and Rebellion, has exhibition in 2 of our galleries, the AT&T and Chase Gallery. But we also have an external component of 10 panels outside on the grounds that the visitors to the AfricanWorld Festival will be able to visit. We actually have another program kicking off on the 17th about reparations, focused on the birthday, actually, of Marcus Garvey, which was the largest, as you know, black mass organization in our history, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. And that program is being featured with Don Rojas from the Caribbean, actually from Jamaica, heading up CARICOM, the organization in the Caribbean calling for reparations, and Hazel Robinson, who will be speaking about our global historical journeys, where the museum will be traveling to St. Kitts, our first venture to travel, to connect the African diaspora to the Charles Wright Museum.
Right. Okay, well, 35 years is a big deal, so congratulations on that. And of course, the festival is free, correct?
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that in this 35-year period, the festival administration has, I should say the museum administration has insisted upon maintaining this as a free admission event. It is next weekend, and it's 11 to 11 each day, 12 hours packed with culture and fun and food and something for everyone. We have an area of the festival for all ages.
For everybody.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you both for being here.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
That's our program for today. Thanks for joining us. For more information about our guests, Visit AmericanBlackJournal.org, and as always, you can connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll see you next time.